Uh,
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everyone. And what we want to do is, it'd be nice if you did turn on your video. Welcome everyone, Ben, Laura, Gail. I can't see Emily, I guess you're there. And I guess that's Bonnie on the other one. Okay, so I would like them to, I'm going to mute you all, and I'm going to ask you to stay muted until they give their report, and then you can ask questions. So if you have no paper there or something, because, we don't want to interrupt them, get them, off track. Let them do their report, take some notes. You can write anything in the chat. The chat is open. And then we will have a question period afterwards. Is that okay with everybody? We're good? Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight, okay, so Bonnie is on the phone and listen only mode. So that's fine. So who I have here today is Eric Hallbach and Chris Dobbins, I think the last name was, and they're going to tell you, they're with the Fond du Lac Police Department. I'm going to spotlight them for everyone. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, tell their relationship to the accident, and then also they are going to tell you their findings and the lengths that they have gone to. I know we have been waiting a long time to get these results, and there are a lot of them. So I think Eric said there were like over 21 different pages or tests or something that were done. So this is, I know, a very emotional gathering for all of us. And so we're going to listen. And then I don't think they have not set any time limit. So let me see, I'm going to unmute Chris's. Where are you? There you are. I'm going to ask you to unmute. I'm also going to make you a co-host so you can, there we go. Okay, so Eric and Chris, over to you.
all right, thank you. My name is Eric Hallbuck. I am the second shift lieutenant for the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office. I'll let Chris introduce himself.
My name is Chris Dobbins. I'm the first shift patrol lieutenant for the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office. I also coordinate our crash investigation team, and I've been involved with that both as a technical crash investigator and as the crash team coordinator for going on 22 years.
So to get a little background and findings, so we both were at the scene on September 1st, 2023. I was there initially as the shift commander. Based on the situation that we had on scene involving that it was a fatal accident, I did contact Lieutenant Dobbins, who then coordinated the crash reconstruction, which is standard procedure with Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office if we have a death investigation involving a motor vehicle, and we believe there's somebody else at fault in that matter. So regarding our investigation, what we found is that it was the driver was Lily Miller. She was 17 years old at the time. What we found is she was traveling west on Subway Road. It's in the township of Friendship, and that particular night the sun was setting and there was some sun glare on the windshield. We actually have that because one of our deputies was coming from about 6 or 7 miles to the east of that and took the same direction of travel. So we actually have video of where the sun was a few minutes after the accident. As Lily was traveling on Subway Road, she entered the intersection at Subway and County Highway RP, where she did fail to yield for the stop sign, I should say. And she went through the stop sign, and at that point in time is when the motorcycle driven by Paul collided with the side of her vehicle, striking her vehicle between the driver's side and passenger side door, almost right in the middle there. We did interview Lily a few weeks after the accident. She was represented by an attorney at that time, and in speaking with her, she was very willing to do the interview. She told us that she was traveling approximately 45 miles per hour, that she wasn't familiar with the area. She was actually visiting her boyfriend who lives in North Fond du Lac, and she was waiting for him to get done. He was at an appointment or some event with his mother. And so she was driving through the village and then ended up in the county, basically using up some time. She said it was at that point in time, it was the first time she was ever on that roadway. And that's when the accident or the crash occurred. We refer to the stuff when we talk about crash investigations, we talk about crashes, because they're not accidents, they're crashes by state definition. In speaking with her, she said that she wasn't using her cell phone, that she didn't have anything to drink or use any illegal drugs. The night of the accident, we did ask her if she'd be willing to give us a blood sample, which is a standard procedure that we try doing if we find a driver that was involved in an accident. She did give that blood sample. The results came back that she had nothing in her system. And we do a 24-hour background, basically try to find out where she was. We also would have done that with Paul and Pam also. And speaking with the people, we found a receipt that she was at Parker John's in Sheboygan. We verified that with Parker John's. She didn't have anything to drink at the time. There's actually a pizza box that was still in her car. She had some leftover pizza. That's where she was earlier in the day prior to coming to visit her boyfriend. She even went to the extent of telling us that she was listening to country music on Spotify. When we downloaded her cell phone, it showed that she was not on the cell phone. She had the app. What's that app called again? The parent one.
Life 360.
Life 360 on the app. That was active, which they were able to even verify her speed that way also. It came back, she said she was listening to some country music, and I would have to go through this, but we were even able to pull out what song she was listening to. And so everything that she told us was accurate with what our investigation found. During our investigation, what she told us, everything lined up. Her parents were notified by the app 360 or the Life 360 app that she was actually involved in an accident. That's how they showed up on the scene prior to us calling anybody. Because I don't know if anybody's familiar with those, but basically because it said that she was involved in an accident, it actually gave her location, and they couldn't get a hold of her, so they actually drove to the scene, which it's amazing what technology can do. We did a download of her vehicle, and the download of the vehicle, which Chris can go more into details about how this all works. If you guys have more questions, basically the download of vehicle is that 5 seconds prior to the event, which is where the accident would have occurred. The vehicle was at 44 miles per hour. At 0.5 seconds prior to the accident, she was traveling 42 miles per hour, and there was braking applied. And when the event occurred and the crash data recorder was activated, she was actually applying braking pressure at that time, and her steering angle was changing as if she was steering away, because that's basically that at 0.5 seconds is probably when she saw the motorcycle. I mean, that's how quick this is happening. And at that point in time, she's reacting to it, but it was too late. So basically through our investigation, we found that she didn't have anything in her system. She did tell us in an interview that she talked about the sun glare and that the sun was in her eyes, which because we actually, like I said, have a deputy that came from the same direction that she came from, We do have that on video. The sun was setting and it was lower. I mean, obviously they still have to drive with caution at all point in time, but it definitely was a factor. And we know she wasn't on her phone. And I think, as I stated earlier, we knew that she didn't have anything in her system. So based on all of that information, what we're looking at is that our recommendation, or what we're going to be referring to the district attorney's office, is that we're looking at issuing citations for failure to stop at a stop sign causing death, which is an enhancement. It does have a mandatory court appearance that she is going to have to see the judge, and being found guilty of that enhancement, she would lose her license for a period of time to be determined by the judge. We don't feel that we have enough we don't have enough to do the criminal charges, which would be, Christian, help me with this. It'd be basically reckless endangering safety or something like that with a motor vehicle, because we would have to prove that she was driving so recklessly that her actions, you know, caused the death of your parents and your loved one. And we just don't feel, based on the information that we have, that we would be able to get a conviction of that with that in court. Got anything with that?
No, again, as I stated before, my role is with the technical side of the crash investigations. What we do, our crash investigation team, is when we get to a scene, and I was actually one of our first crash investigators on the scene, we look at the technical side of things. I'm looking at tire marks. I'm looking at debris fields. I'm looking at where the vehicles came to rest. I'm looking at collision points on the vehicles to make sure all the evidence is there and the picture that it's giving me. At that point, then typically what we do is we forensically map the crash scene. We shoot data points of every piece of evidence, the tire marks, the resting points of the vehicle, the crush vectors on the vehicles, and such, to assist in the investigation. With that, a lot, you heard Lieutenant Hallbach speak about dumping the phone. We do forensic downloads of phones. Basically, in every significant crash we have, if we don't get consent, we do a search warrant to search that phone. We do the same thing with each vehicle. Each vehicle, it has what's called a crash data recorder in it. Every vehicle that's equipped with an airbag, there has to be something that's sensing that vehicle to set that airbag off. That airbag gets set off actually before a crash, because if it set off at time of crash, it's not going to do you any good. So when you heard Eric talk about seconds before this crash, the data that we get out of these crash data recorders regarding an event, and an event is what triggers that airbag deployment. So it could be a significant crash. It could be a significant change in what we call, and bear with me for a technical term, it's change in delta velocity. It's basically meaning that car is decelerating so fast that that computer is saying something bad is going to happen, something bad is going to happen, I need to deploy the airbag. So we get data then. That computer is constantly recording data, but it overwrites itself, and most of them are out 5 seconds. So you heard Eric talk about the recklessness and the negligence. Both roadways are 55 mph per hour roadways. We know that at no time, 5 seconds before this crash, she was doing 44 miles per hour. So at 5 seconds before that crash, she is well nowhere near that intersection at 44 miles an hour. She never got faster than that. So she's not speeding. She's not driving reckless with the speed. There is braking and steering input, and that's pretty much at the time of impact. Again, like Eric had said. So it's, of our opinion, based on the evidence, the science behind everything, her statements, and the conditions, the sun factors, that she didn't see that stop sign. She didn't have any negligent criminal intent to travel through that stop sign. She wasn't speeding, driving recklessly. She wasn't impaired. She wasn't distracted on her cell phone. She actually had a sun visor down and sunglasses on, I believe. And as Eric said, that that camera angle on the squad that was traveling that road to respond to that crash shortly thereafter, it was a significant glare where our deputy was actually having to travel slower. So we have such burdens of proof to rise to a criminal charge from these citations. And what the state of Wisconsin has done in the last couple of years is they've given us more teeth as law enforcement. In the past, it was either a failure to stop at stop sign ticket, which was like $165 fine, or a negligent operation of motor vehicle causing death, or causing death by reckless operation of motor vehicle. So there was like this huge gap. What they did is they gave us these enhancements to charge for great bodily harm or death in result of some of these crashes that don't get to that standard. And like Eric said, it gets the other operator in front of a judge. It's mandatory court appearance. There are sentencing guidelines as far as revocation of that driver's license, and that can be set by the judge. It also means that that person has to reapply for a driver's license to ever operate a motor vehicle again. And as Eric and I have both been doing this job long enough, and we've been on numerous significant crashes and fatalities. And these are always tough ones for us with families such as yours, as well as in this case, the operator is a young 17-year-old girl. And I did see a question pop up in the chat about, did she seem sorry at all? This poor girl was distraught and hysterical. This was not her intent. This was not her intent to go out and harm anybody or hurt anybody, drive reckless. You know, didn't know your family, not like she expected that motorcycle to be there at that time or anything like that. So, you know, this is, before we make decisions like this, we have a lot of discussion here at the sheriff's office between the deputies involved, the crash investigators, the shift commander, our operations captain, and you know, this is for us with what everything we have evidence-wise, we feel that this is the best course of action for the sheriff's office for to hold this operator accountable.
To answer some of the questions that you guys have on here that were popping up, Chris did answer some of them. Make and model of the car, it was 2016 Ford Fusion. It was a 4-door. Yes, we can, because she is going to have a mandatory court appearance, we can tell you when that court appearance will be. The first court appearance typically is just an initial appearance, unless she, because there's going to be a bond. So not a lot is decided on that day, but we can definitely tell you. And then through victim witness coordinator, they could possibly keep you guys informed with what's all going on. And regarding Laura's question, yes, she would. There is a mandatory time period that she would lose her license.
All righty. Thank you, gentlemen. It's very hard for all of us to hear. Brings up so many emotions and feelings. And if you want to ask a question, if you would wave your hand, because I'm just going to unmute you one by one. So just to try to keep it a little, so everybody can hear everyone clearly. So are there anyone have a comment or question they would like to make? I will read Laura's. Laura put in the chat, she killed 2 people. I believe losing her license would be at least fair. And I think that's absolutely that we feel that's already been enacted, correct? She's not driving at this time? Or do we have to wait for the judge or?
Her license is still valid right now. It's when she's found guilty on that ticket, or if she is found guilty on that citation, that's when she would lose her license. Okay.
And the judge would be the one who would determine for how long?
Correct.
You know, the other thing to consider is that, you know, when an unfortunate thing like this happened, you know, the insurance company also looks at whether they will insure someone. And so they're like an unofficial judge, if you will. So that's also, she will have those ramifications as well in her future. Okay. I see Ben's hand is raised, so I'm going to ask you to unmute, Ben.
Okay, so this might have been kind of asked already before today's meeting, but for justice for my parents, would we be able to, where that intersection is, be able to put a four-way stop there so that if something happens like this again of son, or if someone is intoxicated or whatever the case is, that the other person knows, okay, they're not physically there to see, okay, what's going on, so that everyone stopped at a point, not everyone, but the three people at those, because I when I was there, I seen there was 2 stop signs, and then just because like that day we went out, they were slowing down and turning because there was no yield sign, there was no stop sign, there was nothing, and this was like after see my parents and stuff. But basically, if and I don't know if that's a question for you guys or if that's we know the commissioner here, so if that's a commissioner question kind of thing, so that it's justice for my parents as well, but also for us, so that we know like everyone that's going past there isn't gonna, because I guess the week before they had the same, it was like I can't say exact same, but it was, they had an accident down the road, I heard, a week before my parents passed. So like where that road, because of it, there's only 2 stop signs there. Would that be a question for you guys, I guess is my question.
So, where stop signs are, placed on county roads, a lot of it determines on what the intersection is. And what I mean by that is that RP is a county road and Subway is a township road. So the county road has the right of way because it has a lot more traffic, a lot more through traffic going through there. If they were gonna do anything with that intersection, they probably would do it on Subway Road because that is the township road or the less traveled of the two. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't see them placing a four-way intersection at that, but I mean, if that's something that the family would like to pursue or whatever, there is a highway committee. It's a county board committee that meets quarterly that you could ask to speak at that meeting to share your thoughts and your opinions on that matter. But just the way it's laid out there, that probably wouldn't happen. What they would look at, try to make Subway Road more visible. If they found that it was a problem or if there was, and we would have to check the crash data. You could put up flagging or flags on the stop signs, flags at the stop ahead signs. There's a lot of different stuff they do. They put reflective stuff on the stop signs, like if they feel that is a problem. Even up to the far extent of adding rumble strips. And that has to go through all those committees. That is a last resort that they like to do, because obviously the rumble strips affect the people that live in that area. But you have the right to do that if you wish to have those conversations.
Very good. Thank you for that. That's good. Great question, Ben. All right, I see Emily's hand is up, so I'm going to ask you to unmute, Emily.
So I have a couple questions. The first one I have is, if there was a sign that said stop sign ahead, did she not see that or not paying attention? Like, because usually if there's a stop sign, it will say there's a stop sign ahead.
There was a stop
Okay.
ahead sign. Yes, I know somebody just asked that in the chat also.
Could she not see that one either?
Our assumption, in speaking with her and then looking at the weather conditions that day, for lack of better terms, I'll say at the weather conditions, the angle of the sun would be it would have been at the same angle. So more than likely, she did not see that one as well.
The other question I have, which I don't know if you guys can answer or if it's something that would be determined like at court, is there a way that she would be able to do some like kind of volunteer work or something, just like going to school speaking for like motorcycle awareness and stuff like that, and just to drive safe and be more aware?
So typically on criminal charges, and when I say criminal charges, the criminal charges for this would be basically homicide by negligent operation of motor vehicle, which we don't have that element, or homicide by intoxicated use of a motor vehicle, which we know that didn't happen here, or homicide by reckless operation motor vehicle, we don't have it. Those are those are sentencing parameters that, that at the time of sentencing for those crimes, it usually comes with jail time as well as probation and stuff that attorneys work out. But with this is basically the citations that will be issued. The penalties for that are pretty narrowly defined by state statute that, I've never seen it. I don't know that a judge, that would be up to the judge or the attorneys or the victim's family to have a conversation with the attorney that's prosecuting the citations, that maybe that would get on the record. I have investigated crashes in my years that have resulted in criminal charges, no jail time, but options, like you spoke of, Emily, where we had one girl that, for 2 years, she basically had to talk at driver's ed and she had to, she had joined us with some crash presentations for, she operated a motor vehicle and too fast and rolled it and killed 2 of her friends. But with the citation side of that, I don't know that that is an option.
Okay, and then are we able to see the photos and videos of evidence you guys do have?
Once everything is sent up to the court and it's adjudicated, so like when she's found guilty and it's completely opened up, you'd be able to, open records request, you could get everything, yes.
Okay, how do we do that?
Yeah, and actually with some of the stuff, depending on where the insurances are and stuff like that, some of them, so the insurance may already have copies of the crash report and copies of the photos from the crash scene as well, because a lot of times they need to get that stuff to get the ball rolling. We won't release records, documents, photos, videos if we have a pending criminal case. But with this, the way our direction is going, with this being the citations, that stuff is all subject to open records and releasable.
Okay, and I had one more question, because I saw the crash report that was emailed to us, and it said that my parents weren't ejected from the bike, but I had heard my dad was in the road and my mom was in like the ditch or in the grass. So doesn't that mean my mom would have gotten ejected from the bike?
So they both were ejected off the motorcycle, yes. With the crash report, the way the crash report, it's very specific on how it allows us to enter information. And the ejections, we used to be able to have that option to say a person was ejected off of a motorcycle, but the way it's recorded now, the way those forms have changed over the years, the ejections apply to vehicles when a person's not wearing their seatbelt, not motorcycles because they're not equipped with seatbelts. So that's just a nuance on that document that you guys got a copy of, that it doesn't mean, they were both ejected off of the motorcycle to come to rest where they were. It's just a nuance. It's a toggle box. It's basically a pick list on that crash report, that if a motorcycle is the unit involved and we toggle that on that they were ejected, it doesn't let us validate the information because the computer is saying people can't get ejected off of motorcycles. It only applies to motor vehicles with seatbelts.
Okay.
Gotcha. Emily, those were really great questions. I'm really happy. And, down the road when, things become available, I'll, can help you try to get that open records,
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
And then another question I had that I just thought of was my dad's bike. Was that like one of his friends tried saying that bike exploded, which obviously couldn't have. We went out there and I picked up lots of pieces of the bike. So did you guys happen to see the bike? Obviously, what kind of condition was it in?
Well, the collision actually was somewhat at an angled collision. When you think about, if you saw the diagram on the crash report, we still have the motorcycle, and the motorcycle is totaled, but it's intact. It didn't explode, if that makes sense. It
didn't blow up. That's what somebody tried saying, and I said, well, you'd think that my parents would have blew up with it.
No, it did have the compartment side boxes on it and the rear side box. That stuff is just held on by simple bolts and nuts. So when you have a collision like this with that much force and friction, those items did come off. The windshield shattered. broke off the plastic and the handlebars and forks in front got bent, but the motorcycle itself is intact, meaning the tires are still there, the motor mounts are still there, the engine's still in it, the main body of the motorcycle and everything is intact. It was the parts that came off the most were basically the cargo boxes on the back,
Yeah.
and the sides.
And we'll see pictures of that with the rest of the evidence, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay. That's it then.
Okay, thank you, Emily. And I'm gonna ask Gail to unmute, please. It's their aunt.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm.
I don't know if this is something you can answer, but it's a question that I'm living with is I don't understand how she died of head injuries when she had her helmet on.
I mean, I think, that I think would be best, could be determined possibly by the medical examiner and his autopsy report and anything that he had in there.
Okay.
A lot of times they use the phrases blunt force trauma, you know what I mean? Like, you take a moving vehicle and then you have another moving object strike it, at an angle. And if I remember, it was kind of like a half helmet, right?
Yeah, so it was somewhat the half helmet that kind of even sits above the ears, so to speak. So it wasn't, like a full helmet. And in the helmets, they do have some significant crash rating and protection, but the science behind it is Newton's laws of physics. An object remains in motion until contacted by, another object of equal opposite force. So she's on a motorcycle traveling 55 miles per hour and suddenly stops and gets ejected. And she's traveling at that speed yet when she hits the roadway, which suddenly stops her. So the helmet in that situation, depending on the impact and stuff, the helmet isn't going to provide significant protection.
I can add a little bit to that because as a speech language pathologist, I used to work with a lot of head injury resulting from motorcycle and think of a football player. They're wearing helmet and have all kinds of protective gear, but they still suffer concussions. They still can be paralyzed. It adds to safety, but it doesn't take away the risk. The brain is encased inside a skull, and literally the brain can move and what they call coup and contra coup of the brain itself. And, and that, at that force, what Chris is trying to explain, at that force, it's just not made for that impact, that level of impact. Even if they were in a car, they may not have had that amount of protection.
And we see it a lot even in people in vehicles like was just spoken, that are wearing their seatbelts that have a lacerated liver and a lacerated spleen. We always look at, there's basically 3 collisions that take place. There's the physical collisions of the vehicles. There's the external exoskeleton of the human body, and the body's made up of 70% water, I believe. So the organs inside, when the skeleton stops, those organs need to go someplace, and they typically slam against the inside the skeleton. So we see a lot of people that, in our opinion, are crashes that people could walk away from, that die from lacerated livers and spleens because of that blunt force and that movement inside. And then those organs get traumatized, bruised, and start to bleed out internally.
I just brought up, I guess probably saw me, I was doing something here. I just brought up our digital evidence, because we were asking about the pictures and stuff, and I wanted to see
You
what
can
we have. We
screen
actually
share if you want.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I don't think it would be appropriate
Okay.
in this setting to do that. But I mean, we have 580 digital evidence. So either those are videos or pictures that were taken regarding this case. So that would include the body cameras that the deputies were wearing, the cameras that were on the squad cameras, the fixed cameras when they were driving to the scene, to the digital pictures that were taken by the deputies that night to our drone. We had drone pictures here, the overhead view. So I think if you do, or if you get it through the insurance company, a lot of your questions could be answered, possibly about the scene setup and that, again, but that medical question, I think you did a great job, Noel, explaining that. But there would be also with the case file, there should be the medical examiner's report too. That might be a separate open records request because it's a different agency within Fond du Lac County, but there is a report of what they did, had to cause of death to be determined.
I want to go back to Ben's question. What if they wanted to put a roadside memorial or picture there? Would they be able to do that, or is there any laws, you know, if they want to put up a cross there with their name on it or something like that? Is there any way they can do something like that?
Sure. Roadside memorials are not allowed in the right of way. I mean, legally, you're asking a legal question. I'm not saying that people don't put them up sometimes, but they're not legally put up in the right of way. The right of way is typically 40 feet from the center line or 33 from the 33 feet from the center line. It just depends on if it was recently surveyed or not. If it was beyond that right of way, it would be on the property of that landowner. So if that landowner gave permission, the adjacent property landowner gave permission, there would not be an issue. But if they did not want it there and it was on their property, then it would be asked to be removed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I know it's different in different states. Bob, you have a question here?
Yeah, clarification on the full package of information, including all those videos and photos and everything else that you have in the record. Are you saying that would not be available to the personal representative until after she appears in court for the citation?
No, I think Chris corrected me on that. I think he's right. Once we issue the citation, it's going to be able to be, it should be able to be released because our investigation is done.
I see.
If
To
we
the
had
personal
criminal-
representative.
Yeah, well, to everybody probably, because if we had a criminal investigation, then it wouldn't be until the court was adjudicated completely. And he corrected me on that. We worked together a long time. That happens sometimes.
A good partnership.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to become the purveyor of all the information. People can contact you directly. What will be the most expeditious way for someone to get that information?
They contact the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office. You can either do it online or you come down here and in person, and you fill out the form for the open records request. I can actually give you the case number that they would be asking for. You probably have it already, but if you want it, it's SO 23-07643. That's our Sheriff's Office case number. And then you could ask for any reports, digital evidence, anything that we have once we push it back up to the DA's office. And because it's at this citation level, it should be able to be released. I mean, it has to just be approved, but I don't see anything that would be stopping it right now after we issue the citation.
Okay. When do you think that will be?
Probably we can write it tomorrow. I mean, after we just wanted to give family notification first.
Okay.
I have not even called her attorney or Miss Miller and told them of what our conclusion was because we wanted to talk to you guys first.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's very respectful. In
Thank
this
you.
very emotional time. Okay. Gail says that Bonnie has a comment. I don't know what it is, but Gail, do you? Okay. I'll see whether she texted me something. Okay. Bonnie, if you have a comment, you can text it to me and I'll read it to everyone.
She just said on her on Facebook feed, I have a comment. So let us know how you're sending it, Bonnie. And also there's a comment there, Noel, from Ben in the Zoom chat.
Okay, so I saw Ben is asking about, could a yield sign be put down so people would slow down or reducing speed limit? So, again, I'm gonna hand that over to you, gentlemen.
Yeah, those are actually two separate things. We would not want a yield sign there, because it's a through traffic going through on RP, and we wouldn't want a yield sign on Subway Road, because the stop sign there, actually, they have to physically stop. A yield sign, they only have to slow down, so that wouldn't. Again, reducing the speed limit of traffic through there, it is 50 if it just turns to 55. It's 45, actually 35 to the south, a little bit to the south. I have to, I've been in the office a lot lately, but that was the same thing. It goes through the highway commissioners or the highway committees for reduction of speed limits. You can make those requests. And then it also goes to the traffic safety committee. They also get the recommendations. But a lot of times, because I'm actually the chair of the traffic safety committee, at least for another month or two, and then it's going to be handed over to somebody else for the county. And really, because we just did this where somebody wanted the speed limit reduced. And the way that the highway committee wants it and the traffic safety committee is that they want the recommendations for a speed reduction to start at the local level. So if you as a family felt, and you guys can definitely do this, you would have to go through the town of Friendship first, contact them and ask them to, through their town board, to make a request to the county for a reduction of speed in that area. If they made that request, then it would go to the highway committee, who would then refer it to the traffic safety committee. If we push it through, then it goes back to the final for the highway committee, and then the speed could be reduced. When they look at reducing speeds, there's actually state laws on how they can reduce the speeds and at what amount they can. And basically they can reduce it up to 20 miles per hour on a 55. Pretty much for any, for any reason they want to. Anything more than that, like down to the 25 level, there's actually a lot of strict rules and gets a lot more complicated. But that would be the process to do that if you wish.
So and here's one thing to remember with this crash, however. There was nothing speed related in this crash. RP, the through roadway, is a 55 mile per hour highway, and that's the highway that Paul and Pam were traveling on. They had the right of way at 55 miles per hour. The other roadway is also a 55 mile per hour way, but it is signed appropriately with a stop ahead sign and a stop sign. The causation of the crash for this wasn't speed or recklessness related. She was actually traveling well under the speed limit as it was. To me, it's a visibility issue with several, about a block of a week through the summertime and the summer when we see this when some of our east-west roads in Fond du Lac County. Further north there at the next north road, which is Kinker Road, about 8 years ago, we had a very similar crash. So they do traffic studies with that, and some of those studies include the number of crashes we've had at these intersections. And in my 24 years here at the sheriff's office, this is the first fatal crash that we've had at that intersection.
I'm sorry, say that last part. How many fatal crashes?
This, to the best of my recollection, since I've been doing this is the first fatal crash we've had.
Okay. So yeah, so and Bend, where that has the stop ahead sign there, that's actually more effective than a yield, because a yield says people can go without stopping. That'd be more dangerous.
Correct. There are some things that they can do, visibility of the signs. You do see some of these stop signs around various communities that have the solar panel on them with the flashing red lights. However, there is a resident right there, so they have to take that into consideration as well, because there is a residence right there, similar to what Lieutenant Halbach said earlier with the rumble strips, because of the noise that those strips put off. So at times, even though there would be things to make it safer, if possible, government is also restricted by the people's right to privacy as well, to not have flashing red lights blaring in their light in their house at night from the stop sign blinking, or the rumble strips not being able to enjoy peace and quiet. So, and again, it kind of goes back to the causation of this crash, that it wasn't because it's poorly signed or speed or you know, the roadway design, other than it's a east-west road, flat and straight. And for about a week a year, when the sun's at that angle, at that time of day, it's miserable.
It's scary. I've been in situations there where I have, you know, it happens to us all, you know, it's, you really have to be careful during that time of year.
So in Wisconsin, we have something that they worked with through the University of Madison. It's called Community Maps, and it allows us to develop our crash history. And just because I wanted to see if Chris was right or not, but we only, going back to 2001, there was only one fatal accident within that corridor. The next closest one would have been that one in 2022 up on Kinker Road that happened around that same time period. And actually, if I even include that up to going back to the last 14 years where we look for serious injuries at that intersection, there isn't any. So I'm gonna see if there's any B injuries or not.
So there's really basically
There's no crash data there.
There's not crashes occurring at this intersection. It's not a regular occurrence that there's something that is drastically needed to be changed at this intersection.
And so Emily has said, if it's going to save lives, why does it matter if the residents don't want to be disturbed? And I think from a practical point of view, then we probably would have extra signs at every intersection in the whole state, because they happen everywhere. And, you know, they have a certain, if you have them everywhere, then they become, people don't see them because they're everywhere. So, you know, I don't know, you know.
Well, and you know, everybody has an expectation to, a right to privacy, so to speak, and that does include unnecessary noise and unnecessary lighting. And Department of Transportation, and they hold, when they design roadways, develop roadways, and when permits are applied for, there's restrictions that are put on where these methods can be enacted, such as rumble strips, as they're called, or extra lighting on these flashing stop signs and stuff. They do lighting studies and lighting surveys, and typically, you know, you don't have stop and go lights out in the middle of the country unless they're in an area where you're already coming into that may have some overhead street lighting or stuff that's maybe lessening the brightness of those lights because of how it can affect, you know, residents. And I do understand the concern. You know, what are we worried about? Saving lives or people's personal privacy? And we all say that until it directly affects us. That if I'm the one sitting in my living room every night and I got to see this flashing stop sign, you know, at some point it's going to be an annoyance to me. Well, I understand the concern. It's legislation, it's government, it's, you know.
And they do studies. I mean, if there is a recurrence, you know, if there have been, you know, 20 accidents at the site in the last 2 years, certainly they would have to override. You know,
and Eric and I have been involved in that process through the years. Like he said, he's on traffic safety committee. We've been involved in that process through the years where we have had roadways, intersections, designs changed in Fond du Lac County. Our perfect example is US Highway 151 on the east side, which is a 4-lane bypass. It used to have it was a divided highway that you could cross, and especially at 4th Street, we had, in a matter of 2 months, I think we had 3 fatal crashes there and some other significant crashes. And that was it. Overpass got put in, turn lanes got put in instead of just stop signs and such. My wife is actually a civil engineer, and that's her specialty. She does bridges and highways and road work. And the amount of effort that goes into design to look at all this stuff and the studies before they even break ground and work on this stuff is it blows my mind.
Yeah. We have one of the aunts, Bonnie, is on the phone and she has a comment. Bonnie, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. I am Pam's sister, and I just wanted to say, like, through this whole thing, you know, I really appreciate everything that you two gentlemen have done in your department. It sounds like, you know, as long as it's taken, it was very thorough. And for me, it gives me peace to know that, you know, I have 2 daughters, and I know this is my sister, but I just know that accidents happen in life. And for me, it was a peace of mind that you did everything you could to, you know, find out, you know, everything that happened and how it happened. And so I really appreciate that. I am one that is more to the preventative as well, like Ben. I did hear you say that we could go to a highway board meeting and ask about it. I'm not hearing it's out of the question. I'm just hearing it could possibly be a no because it could affect the residents. So I guess I would like to know where we locate or how we locate where to go if we want to join that meeting to bring something to them to ask.
Um,
Done in the past, the best way is Yankee.
yeah, if you contact the highway commissioner first, with the request of what you're looking at, then he will typically send stuff out to get it on the agendas. If he feels it's appropriate, or you know, or if you want to be heard, you know, we will always let people speak. Because that's what
Okay.
we're there for. We're a standing committee to listen to the public. So, and if I know that you guys are associated with the Winnebago County Highway Commissioner, I'm sure he'd be able to put you in with Tom Yankee. Otherwise, you can contact him at the Fond du Lac County Highway Department. I can find a phone number here for you.
Thank you. I mean, I think I like the idea of the rumble strips. I understand about, you know, the rights totally of the community, but until we ask and until we seek and see if this is something that maybe they would totally approve of, I think until we ask that question
Yep.
From that community, then we know. Then we know, like, nope, they definitely wouldn't want it, or they would be fine with it. So I think that we still have to pursue that. If it saves one more life, it would be great to have that.
No,
So I appreciate everything you've done. For sure.
That's totally understood. Because the rumble strips would be on Subway Road, I mean, I will get you the information for the highway department, but you're also gonna have to go through the town of Friendship, because that is their road. So the town
Okay.
of Friendship is where you would wanna start with anything for on Subway Road. It would, because they would probably have the highway department do it, or hire them. Or the highway department, I'm not gonna say who's gonna pay for it. But that is their road, so you would have to start with them.
Okay.
I'm gonna find you an office phone number here. Stand by.
This is for the town of Friendship, correct?
This is gonna be for the Fond du Lac County Highway Department,
Okay.
and I'll get you the other one that you need to. So,
Bob, will you put in the, when he gets the highway department, will you put that one in the chat, and I'll do town of Friendship?
So 929-3487 is gonna go to the, because I've learned a long time ago, I don't give direct lines to to people. That will go to the front desk lady at the highway department, which then can route your call. And actually, I believe it will even give you the option to speak with the go to the highway commissioner through that. The town of Friendship. You got that?
Yeah. Town of Friendship is area code 920-517-2526.
And the one I gave you was also 920, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There was a question about whether they can contact Lily. Or will we go through the attorney if we wanted to, just to, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously.
wait until after the court or show up at the court?
Yeah, this is what I'll do. No, I'm gonna contact her attorney, because I have to let them know that we're gonna proceed. I will tell him that the family expressed interest in making contact with her. I'll see how that goes and I'll get a hold of you. How's that sound?
That sounds perfect. Now I can relay it to the
Yep,
family.
and then, you have every right to do it if you want. She has every right not to talk. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
I don't know. Unless something was a court order, that'd be the only way that she'd be forced to do something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And anyone else have any questions, comments? It's taken, from our standpoint of, losing two people so dear to us, it seems like this has taken a very, very long time to come to this point where we are now. But when you put it in the context of everything you've done, how professionally you've handled this, and how you're explaining to us the process, you've done an excellent job. And anybody can unmute themselves and give some gratitude to Eric and Chris for having this very emotional, factual, and complete chat with us here this afternoon. So
I'd like to say thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
thank you. Yeah, you can go ahead and unmute if you want to. I don't have anybody muted at this time, but
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I know we do too.
And you got down to every detail, so that was helpful.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Laura, are you still here?
no, she is not.
I didn't know she was still in here.
Yeah. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. And I don't know if the family wants to stay on and chat among yourselves. I'll leave the Zoom room open. And Eric and Chris, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And
You're welcome. And
Thank you, gentlemen.
you have my email, Noel. If you have any
Yeah.
questions, please feel to reach out to me.
okay, very good. Thank
All
you,
right.
gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
You guys will let us know once you talk to the attorney.
About what? About
About reaching out to her.
yes, yeah, he's gonna talk to the attorney. He's gonna
Okay.
contact their attorney, what I understood, and say that we would like to contact them. The one thing I didn't feel authorized to say is that I don't know, your motivation for wanting to talk to her.
Yeah, no. I guess not. I mean, in a way, I'm expecting her to at least reach out, and even though we know kind of what happened, to her at least hear it from her, to show that she gives a shit.
Well, as he said, she was extremely hysterical, upset,
That's what I
remorseful.
had heard from, I don't remember
Yeah.
who told me. Ginger's cousin was the paramedic that worked on mom and dad, apparently. I think Gail was saying this, that maybe it was somebody else, but that worked on them. And that's how I knew about the son thing right away, was because she said, I didn't even see the sign, was the same way, hysterical and just in shock.
Right. So I think if we gave her, for me, I would give her a message of, it was an accident, forgiveness.
And that's what I kept thinking too. It
Yeah.
truly was an accident. It's not. I'm glad they didn't find her on her phone or distracted by anything.
Exactly, because there are a lot of rumors, texting and all this other kind of stuff. So I'm very relieved to see how detailed they were. But if I ever had any contact with her, it was to say, it was an accident. We all got to get on with our lives best we can.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a negative thing if I would, if for any reason I contacted her, but I would wait for her to contact us. But
yeah.
And the sheriff will also, correct me if I don't recall this, Noel, properly, but the sheriff was also saying he'd notify you as the PR when Lily's court date will be.
And
Right.
we have the right to be there, right?
It's a court, so
Yeah.
sure it is.
But we probably
Or-
can't say anything, right?
No, you wouldn't be able to. And he said the first time is really just an appearance. So they're going there just to read the charges. And then, my indication was that nothing really happens at that one.
Yeah, well, there really wasn't any charges. It's just a ticket.
Right.
Right.
Right. And,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
proper turn is it's a
license.
traffic citation, correct?
Which I don't expect her to get like prison or anything like that. I mean, as severe as what happened, but if it's truly an accident, I mean, like I said, at least like volunteer work or something for her to be able to
Mhm.
bring awareness to motorcycles, because there's never enough awareness for that, for one, and two, just to be able to tell that like she lived through this and the truth, like situations like this truly is an accident, to be more aware of, even though it was the sun and stuff like that, to be more cautious. But I mean, it sounded like she was already kind of on her brakes a little bit of trying to slow down.
Right. And she was under the speed limit the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's,
And as you said, it's not that the same accident could have occurred with all the same circumstances from Lily's view of the world, her experience in the world. It could have been a car, not a motorcycle.
Yeah. And a motorcycle is going to lose every time to a vehicle, a bigger vehicle.
yeah, that you're exactly right. Exactly. So,
Hey, Emily, this is Bonnie.
I know.
Is Ben still on the line?
Yes,
Yeah,
he
I'm
is.
here.
Hey, I just want to say how proud I am of you guys. You just handled it with such grace, and I know it's hard, but I'm so proud of you.
Oh, I had to put the
Mature.
phone down a couple of times, and like I didn't
It's
shut
okay,
the camera off,
but
but I just had to get out of
you
the
did-
camera.
You did a good job. You handled it the way you handled it, and it was very good. It's very respectful, and I'm very proud of you. I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
but your
I love you
questions
guys.
were also excellent. And yes, I'm very proud of everyone. And, you know, I think that, you know, I just feel
I'm
Pam and
going
Paul
now.
just said it was an accident, people, and
Yeah.
we're okay. And you're going to be okay.
I was just thinking of that too. I gotta go. I gotta get off the phone though.
Okay, hon.
We love you, Emily.
We love you.
hon.
Bye
Hey
bye,
guys,
everyone.
I'm actually heading out with my daughter. So thank you for hosting, and I love you guys too, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. We'll see you in
Thank
July.
you, Emily.
Mwah.
Okay, sounds good.
Love
Bye-bye.
you, Gail. Love you, Ben.
Hey, so I actually have a question. You guys said in July then? You guys are coming through Wisconsin again, or?
In July
Oh,
To
for the Air Venture.
for AirVenture.
all right, yeah, I'm gonna go